Yo, 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 yo. What going, boss?
I can't complain. How you been?
All
Okay.
right. So before we get into the meat of the matter, tell me, just give me a background on how you entered the entertainment industry.
I started out as a DJ, loving music, collecting records while other people while my friends were collecting sneakers. I was collecting records. Um, Went to college. My parents wanted me to, they said you can do that DJ and stuff, but have education to fall back on. I was good in math and science, so ended up going to Northwestern in Chicago. Studied industrial engineering and management science, and all throughout that, I was DJing on campus, and that's kind of where I honed my entrepreneurial skills. I was DJing all kind of parties, from black parties, white parties, the Asian parties. I was doing them all. I was fortunate enough at the time, and I didn't realize, when you first got it, I didn't realize it was ultimately going to be a blessing. But my first roommate freshman year was a white dude. And I'm like, oh man, and that white dude became a blessing to me because he turned me on to all of like the pop records, the white records. He's like, you buy these records here and you can do all these parties on campus. And I was like, oh shit. So he expanded my palette. Um, After I graduated, I got a job developing Windows software at Kraft Foods. And in the mailroom, I met a brother named Tony Anderson. And he said, man, I know you're into music, man. You got to meet my friend. He's the program director for the #1 station in Chicago, WGCI. And I was like, oh, wow. I ended up meeting that program director, which ended up becoming a mentor to me, Elroy Smith. And long story short, I ended up quitting my job at Kraft, took a $12,000 pay cut, and went to work at the radio station where we started Steve Harvey's radio career at about that same time. So I had the opportunity to not only work with Steve Harvey, but a lot of the radio legends here in the States, Doug Banks, Tom Joyner. And then, of course, I was just in an environment where I just loved music and ended up making more money because I was DJing more, especially with the call letters on my back. I ended up making, more money. I did that for many years, and then I met a mutual friend. A mutual friend set us up, Stephen Hill, who was at the time at MTV. He was the only black person I knew at MTV. I was like, wow, like this is cool. He ended up months later going over to BET, and he calls me out of the blue. And I'm thinking that when he calls me, he leaves a message on my home machine. It's like, Kelly G, this is Stephen Hill. I was wondering if you're interested in doing television. And I'm thinking like, oh yeah, okay. I'm thinking he wants me to DJ on BET, where at the time there was a show called Planet Groove where they would have different radio DJs on. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Remember Planet Groove?
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's what he was. He's like, no, I want you to be the music director for BET. And I was like, well, what's a music director? He's like, well, basically what you do now, organically as a DJ, you pick the hottest records. So for 16 years, I picked all the videos that you saw on BET. From 1999 to 2015, I was the music director, like program director, and helped develop shows like 106 in Park, BET Awards, Hip Hop Awards, and obviously developing a lot of artist-based content from, Chris Brown, Access Granted, to R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet. I mean, we just, we were fortunate enough to have a awesome platform that will put a lot of people on. So first time you saw people on a national level was typically on BET, and that was everywhere from Kanye West to Alicia Keys, John Legend, I mean, T-Pain, Fabulous. I mean, you name it. It was just, that's where you went. And it just, we were just literally a couple years ago doing a 20-year reunion at 106 in Park, because we actually started 106 in Park on September 11th, 2000. That was the first show. Donnell Jones and Busta Rhymes were our first guests. So we were reflecting 20 years later, like, wow, like didn't realize all of like the people that you dealt with and the stars you helped launch. Like it was just, you know, I mean, and it was happening so fast that you didn't even have time to process it. You know, just like all of a sudden, oh yeah, Whitney Houston's here today. Okay, Whitney needs such and such. All right, they bring her down here. Oh, tomorrow, oh, Alicia Keys, this girl, Clive Davis is bringing some lady named Alicia Keys. Okay, all right, they bring her over. Oh shoot, such and such wants to come by. Michael Jackson wants to do something. Oh wow, okay, cool. Bill Gates is coming through to do another interview for BT.com, and you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, like Aaliyah's coming to give away a Cadillac truck on Thursday from this contest we did, and then Saturday she dies. You know what I mean? Like it was just surreal to see all of the impact.
One of the things, I don't know if you realize that as someone who's living in America, which is a domestic market, right? Because America is a country as big as it is, but BET is global.
Right.
Anything you placed on BET, 30 countries, people from all over the world consuming it. So if there's a star in America, that star is also in Jamaica, in the entire Caribbean, Latin America, Europe, all of that. What responsibility do you take for influencing pop culture and world music?
I mean, it was a heavy responsibility because we, you know, we were scrutinized because you're the only black guy on the block. We were under the microscope. So what MTV could get away with playing, we couldn't, right? So oftentimes we would be criticized for versions of a video that we actually never played, right? So, and at the time, because we you know, even though BT is perceived really big, it was a small, you know, black company. So I was the guy reviewing the videos. Me and my guy that worked for me named Tuma Basa, who went on to, you know, Spotify and now is over at YouTube. Who went on to MTV, Spotify, and then is now at YouTube. But it was me and him. You know, we were sitting there doing all the edits, and we were the the legal team per se, and say, okay, we got to take that out. Ooh, oh, this is bad. We did, you know, the chyrons and all of this other stuff. So the responsibility was definitely heavy in the sense that we knew that what we played or the visuals in which we played, you know, we were very, very much had to be conscious and of those different visuals.
Yo, BET influenced my life from 98, 99 up until you know, it changed from the music centered. And it influenced a lot of Jamaicans' life. A lot of reggae music was also on BET MTV at the time. Did you have anything to do with that? Placing dancehall, Beenie Man, Sean Paul, Shaggy, Buju, all those guys in that?
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, Tuma being from his heritage from Africa, you know, he naturally was always excited and champion and stuff like that. But, you know, as a DJ, man, we just love whatever was hot. So at the time, you know, Atlantic did this deal with Sean Paul, or with VP Records, and you know, the Sean Paul record, you know, Give Me the Light, we knew that in the streets, like, yo, that's popping, right? And that's kind of what, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be able to identify those street records and bring them to mainstream. I remember even at WGCI, there was a record called Time for the Percolator, right? It was a house record. It was a big record in the clubs, but my program director didn't understand it. He's like, no, this is so out of the time for the percolator. It's time for, you know, like, what is this? This can't work on radio. And of course, the phone lines lit up. Same with Sean Paul, right? You know, there was definitely fights of, hey man, we gotta do this. We had this this program called Rated Next, and where we would sort of put our stamp of approval on.
I remember that.
And be like, yo, this needs to be rated next, man. Come on. And yeah, that's what. And the one rated next that I really wanted, and I always got shot down for, was Kanye West, Through the Wire.
Jeez.
It was, I had to fight for it. I damn near got fired messing around with Kanye West because I was like, dude, this is the guy. Like, this guy has talent. This guy is talking about things that other people weren't doing. You know, he was all, even at that time, he was criticized for being wearing a polo and backpack and all that stuff, and it just didn't fit the Rockefeller brand. And I remember having these debates with Jay-Z when he was president of Def Jam. Like, yo, man, you got this thing called Young Guns. I don't know, but Kanye West, this is what's hot. Oh no, Kanye, you own that Chicago shit, man. Chicago just, Kanye is just a producer. I'm like, I don't know, bro. He's making creative visuals, which we always loved. One of the things that me and Tuma always just champion is somebody, you were doing visuals that were not the typical girls' cars and in a strip club and stuff. So when someone did something really creative, we did our best to celebrate it.
So as a champion, and this is a shameless plug, right? World Music Views is currently on TV. We have the matter of fact, the reason I'm talking to you is because I had a discussion with Kevin Lyles a couple of years ago. He showed me how to grow it market by market by market. But I'm putting it to you now. You're at Revolt. You switched to Revolt, right, in 2015. Are you still at Revolt?
No, I'm with Kevin.
Are you with Kevin? Yeah. But a show like World Music Views that encompasses reggae, dancehall, hip hop, pop, reggaeton, all of that. Is there a place for that kind of show? And by that kind of show, I mean exactly World Music Views on a Revolt, on an MTV right now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we did a lot. We did a I forget the name of the title of the show at Revolt, because the fun thing about working at Revolt was Puff was a musical, like he loved music, right? Like he loved all kind of music. And that was kind of the enticing thing to leave BET and come over to Revolt, because it was like, dude, you can play more than just, R&B and hip hop, right? Like we have alternative, we have EDM, we got just weird shit that, that BT, just wouldn't touch, you know what I mean? It was just, it was edgy, it was disruptive. And one of the shows that we had developed was a video show that kind of highlighted music from all around the world. So I do believe there's opportunity, but I also think now with technology, there's going to be a new way of showing that type of music and giving that music to the audience, right? Because the audience, isn't it on cable like it used to be, right? And cable is expensive. Shit, my cable bill is almost $250, right? And I'm working, right? Like, can you imagine somebody that's hustling or a kid that's going to school? They don't have that kind of money to get cable. So you have to have other ways to access it, and you have to have just new disruptive ways to get that type of programming out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Something happened with the MTV. Nolan was sharing with me that there was a gay backlash that happened with dancehall music that caused them to pull a bunch of artists back then. Do you think that affects the modern artists now?
No, I again, you have a lot of roses rising up from the concrete, right? With like I said, with new technology, like those traditional gatekeepers are irrelevant at this time, right? I don't care. Like it always scratches my head of how the BET Awards keeps going on, because it's like, you guys don't play any music videos 364 days of the year, and then all of a sudden I'm supposed to tune in on the days 365 to check out artists that you don't play. And then you wonder why the ratings have a challenge. So
why don't they play music? That's a question I want to know. I want to answer for. Why
I don't know. I mean, I remember one of my sort of enlightening days was, I remember when we decided that we were going to get rid of 106 in Park collectively, and we were around the senior table and just throwing stuff out like, well, what do we need to, sort of figure out some new programming quickly, at least some bridge programming until, we figure out what we're going to do long term. And I said, well, we have this amazing library of music videos. Why don't we just play some music videos? And the senior team at that time was like, we're not a music channel like that. And I was like, oh, wow. And that was sort of the awakening for me. I think what they realized was that, what they realized is that, again, the audience was shifting, right? Like, I don't need to wait till 6 o'clock to see my favorite, Elephant Man video. I can just go on YouTube and watch it now, right? And more importantly, not only I can watch the unfiltered, unedited version on YouTube. Why do I need to wait till 6 o'clock to somebody host it? So it just shifted. And then I think that, I think Viacom as a whole, shifted, and they realized that their viewers, they could make more money giving their viewers other things outside of music.
So reggae and dancehall, why I keep leading you up to this is because reggae and dancehall music has a selling problem. It accounts for less than 1% of global music consumption. I just read the global music report by IFPI, and it actually is with Latin America, but it's not true. Latin America grew by 33%, but there's music right in between reggae and dancehall music that comes from Jamaica, and it's flourishing all over the world in terms of live stage, but it's not popping on streaming. I don't know if you know about Shensia. Her album just sold
with the Megan record.
Yeah, the Megan record. Megan is with your label. But the album, even with a Megan collab, 21 Savage collab, 2 Tiger collabs, Beanie Man, Sean Paul, 21's Offset. Album sold only 800 copies, not 800,000, 800 copies. Total units was 4,900. So reggae and dancehall has a selling problem. How do you think that problem might be solved with the help of record labels, etc., and the machinery in the US?
Again, I just think somebody needs to step up to the plate and be a champion for the culture. And it's not coming from the United States. There's got to be a Puff Daddy, a Kevin Lyles of Jamaica, or I'll tell you this: there's got to be a JY of Korea, that do this K-pop stuff. The problem I see oftentimes, and it's just unfortunately it happens that way in with us.
By the way, I'm gonna use that as the headline. Jamaica needs a Puff Daddy. Go on, listen.
Or Jamaica needs someone, a disruptor. That's what Jamaica needs. That says, no, I'm not. And this is what was great about where the music industry went. The South did that, right? Drill music did that. These Juice WRLDs and Extensions did that. They were like, I'm not waiting for radio to play me or validate me or MTV. Fuck them, right? Like, I don't need them. I got this little thing called an iPhone. I got access to the internet, and I can galvanize my audience, give them content when and where they want it, and I can create my own movement. We still think that, I got to get some gatekeeper to validate me to come and make me pop. And artists as a whole get caught up in that. I always tell artists, I tell them, they say, oh man, can you rock with me, man? I want you to listen to my music, this and this and that. And I tell them, I said, my man, when I get off the plane in your city, and somebody like the TSA worker, and if I ask him, TSA worker, yo, man, who's popping in the city? They don't mention your name, homeboy. You got work to do. That's the problem. That's the problem. We don't start on the block first. Why should I care about homegirl if the people in our own block don't give a fuck about it? People like movements, bro. People don't
Homegirl,
buy.
you mean Shensia?
Right. People, and again, I don't know anything about her situation. I'm just completely speculating. So, but what I do know, what I do see as a pattern is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? They buy into movements, things that are moving bigger than themselves. That's what people buy into, right? They don't buy into, oh, this is my, this is what I'm selling and I'm trying to be popping. And then what the things that I think people will like, the things that always end up breaking through, I always tell people this too, is that if you ever look at radio patterns, right? The records that all of a sudden end up like becoming these pop-up records out of nowhere, they're always records that sound different than what's going on at the time, right? If you think of Happy by Pharrell, it was completely sounding different than what was going on at the time. You think about the Robin Thicke record, it was completely different than what everybody else was playing at the time. Everybody thinks that, oh my God, I used to get this all the time at BT. Artists would call me, oh, Kelly, I know we got to have girls in the club and we got to have girls in the video and this and this and that. I'm like, who told you that? Everybody got to wear a throwback. Who told you that? Right? I got to be in a strip club. Who told you that? Because they see one guy successful doing it, they think everybody else got to do it. And at the one time, remember, if Jay-Z was wearing throwbacks, everybody wore throwbacks. If Jay-Z was wearing the button downs, everybody wore the button downs and thinking that that's what they needed. And that's just not the case.
Do you think Jamaican culture by itself has some kind of capital in the US or globally?
I think the Jamaican culture is a reflection of Black culture that is rich, that is valuable. And I don't think that we have sort of tapped into the value. Again, we have this mindset of trying to be co-signed by somebody else that ultimately doesn't matter. And we get frustrated if oh my God, BET doesn't play my record or this radio station doesn't play my record, then I'm not cool, right? We don't have that self-confidence in our culture and our creativity and our intelligence to say, we don't need you, right? We can create our own movement. And the great thing, like I said, technology has given us access. We don't have any excuses. Like, I tell artists all the time, I said, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be worldwide famous. I said, well, okay. Is your music on the internet? Yeah. Well, then you worldwide, right? So now what? Oh, but no. Oh, see, you don't have a movement. You don't have a passion for why you want to do it. Again, people buy why you do it, not what you do.
Who's your all-time favorite reggae artist and all-time favorite artist in general?
I don't have an all-time. I mean, I've got phases that I go through, right? I like everyone, I grew up, from, I was inspired by Jam Master Jay to be a DJ. I just was fascinated by him as a DJ. So Run DMC, my mom and dad played Sam Cooke growing up, Aretha Franklin and Al Green. So I was inspired by that. Was inspired by guys like Kirk Franklin. I was inspired by like Elephant Man. I was like, when I went to go to his show, I was like, if he wasn't an artist, he would be a dictator because he was so like just the way he would command the crowd was just like, I like what Sean Paul was doing. It's just, I mean, it's just so much great music. I like Marvin Winans, right? I love his voice. I love Gladys Knight's voice. Beyonce, you name it. I like what they call her now, but when I put her on the BET Awards, she was Gabby Wilson. I like people who study their craft. Michael Jackson, people who really take their art very, very serious.
Now, I have two more questions.
Okay.
I want to know about your work currently with 300 on YouTube, because World Music Views actually started from Leo Cohen's interview on Drink Champs when he said the music business will now cater to the entrepreneurs, the impresarios, the people who are making business. And I'm like, yo, I need to lock streaming in Jamaica. This is 2018 when streaming wasn't even a thing in Jamaica. So I want to know what kind of work you're doing now with 300 and YouTube to develop content there, and how will that impact reggae and dancehall music in particular?
Well, what we're doing at 300 Studios is, you know, Kevin Lyles wants to tell stories. He wants to continue telling stories that he told when he was at Def Jam, whether it been through a music video, whether it been through HBO's Def Comedy Jam, or a partnership with Universal Pictures and doing a movie called Rush Hour and Nutty Professor. He wants to continue to tell stories, and this is what we just did. We took on this black race car driver who Kevin had been managing for years, and told his story. He said, "Hey, look, I'm one of the only black NASCAR race car drivers, and I got something to say. You know, based off the George Floyd thing and Aubrey situation. I want to ban the Confederate flag. I want to be disruptive." So we told that story, and it's currently on Netflix right now, called Race by Bubba Wallace. And it follows this young kid, this young biracial kid that was fighting the system, that was fighting, you know, traditional NASCAR culture and helping NASCAR expand its culture. He became this lightning rod for a race that, again, personally, I've never even really rocked with. I like cars, but I never watched NASCAR until I worked on this project, and I realized like how diverse NASCAR really is, and how deep the culture is, you know, and how many Black people actually are working behind the scenes at NASCAR. I don't think people of color realize, you know, there's a lot of Black folks at NASCAR that make NASCAR run. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We're telling stories. We've got a lot of other great stories in development, we have a series called In Our DNA that identifies and talks about the origin of various types of genres in music, right? Whether it be house music in Chicago, where I came from, or hyphy movement on the West Coast, even Jamaican, reggae music in Jamaica, and just various movements around the world.
We're done with an interview. I want to turn my book that I'm about to release, Cultural Capital into Financial Capital, Reggae Dancehall, into a documentary series movie. What Nolan and I were talking about the other day when you were on the phone, and finding the characters from the culture that can drive it. In the book, I have 43 people: Usain Bolt, Shaggy, Sean Paul, all the top people who made money using culture. Like at the end of the race, what Usain Bolt did was purely cultural. And that's what makes him money, because a lot of people did tracks, but they're not as famous, they're not as rich as Usain Bolt. People did break records before him, but they're not as enigmatic as him, because he's using the culture to propel himself and push out. So I want to tell that story, that unique, intangible thing that Jamaica particularly is known for. It's the same thing Bob Marley has. It's the same thing Harry Belafonte has it. The first person to sell 1 million records was Harry Belafonte with a Jamaican market woman song. Day-o, me say day-o. So I want to tell that story and hopefully get a distribution on a major platform like Netflix or wherever. The technology is so wide, as you said, to put it out. But hip hop and reggae and dancehall did this. Hip hop just got bigger, but dancehall still has that panache, that cultural link to hip hop as it flourishes. You know, if a hip hop person break, 9 out of 10 times they're gonna come here to G-Jam or wherever and find another song because it connects, you know, and it's an intangible piece of culture that I want to put up there. That is a thing that should be valued and show examples of it and the characters that made it big with it, including myself, because what I do with my show and everything that I do, advertisements. I did an ad with Taurus Riley for Bank of Jamaica. I literally flipped a Taurus Riley song to talk about inflation targeting. And you can look it up. The first day I dropped it, Yahoo, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, everybody picked it up because they're like, holy shit, somebody used reggae music to send such an important message about inflation targeting and financial inclusion. The Fed started to talk to Cardi B, and you can look it up. They started to talk to Cardi B about how she could talk about inflation because we flipped reggae for that. Canada did it, the UK did it. And it was just my thought that, hey, so they have this thing they want to put out. And Steve Stout, I kind of got a little from him in putting that together as well with Pusha T. Because when they said it to me, very boring, they laid it out like financial inclusion, inflation targeting, the people need to understand it more. And I'm like, the best way to do that is to find the thing in the culture that they already understand and just merge it with it, you know? So I want to tell these stories on a grand scale.
I think you just need to tell the story and tell it from a passion, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I do house music, right? And, you know, as most human beings, we all go through seasons, right? There's a season of prosperity, there's a season of sowing, there's a season of reaping, and we have your ups and your downs. So I was in that season where, you know, things just didn't feel like they were going right for me, and I was literally kind of going through it spiritually. And I started doing these house records. And I did these house records. There's a record out called Keep Wondering that I did. And it was my way of talking to God of it's with Gladys Knight, and it says, just keep wondering. I keep wondering what we're gonna do, how we're gonna get through this, right? Now, when I brought it to my partner, Terry Hunter, who's put my records out, he's like, oh, I don't know. I don't get it. And I said, well, I don't really care. I just want to just put it out. Just put it out. You know what I mean? And the record took off, right? And then I had another record with Aretha Franklin called Feels Good, Yeah. And it was a celebration of, I get worried sometimes and I get, but sometimes I just say, yeah, and it feels good. Again, these records were made out of pain. These records were made out of a bigger, deeper sort of a feeling. I didn't care if, you know, the big labels or the big DJs play my record, because they came out of somewhere natural and real. And guess what? That's what happened. All these major records, all these major DJs started playing these records. Records shot up to #1 on the dance charts, right? Because it came from a real place. And again, I keep emphasizing, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is what's important.
I'm gonna tweet that.
That you're doing something that represents a bigger movement to you, right? And when you do that with enough charisma and drive, and knowing that you have a greater power behind you, the bigger people are going to come. Because when you're doing something that serves a greater good, God will not only fund it, but he'll also leave a tip. So he'll give you access to things that you never even realized. You thinking United States, God is thinking the entire world. No, you're thinking, I just need a car to get to work, but God's going to give you a fleet of cars, right? Give you more than enough that will help you fulfill his destiny for you. So I always told myself is that I don't want no one else to bless me. I don't need JR to put me on. Right? God is going to bless me. And if God tells JR, I got to get a hold of Kelly G, I don't know why. I don't even like the guy. I got to get a hold of this dude, do something with him. It's because we were destined to do it. So oftentimes, if I have these obstacles in my way, that's God telling me, I don't want you to go that way. I got something bigger for you. We would oftentimes, you're chasing things that were ultimately trying to kill you, right? And God said, nah, JR, you're going to miss the bus this time. You're going to, that meeting never happened because that person was trying to undermine you. He wasn't for your good. And I have to direct you to where you need to go. So in your passion of making this movement, brother, keep that in your mind. Whatever is yours is yours. Nobody can have your blessing but you. Don't chase nobody else's blessing. I never chased after it. I don't want nobody else's job. I don't want nobody else's money. I don't want nobody else's woman. I don't want nobody else's house or car. I want the one that God gave me. That's the one I want. And the one that, and that way I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to, constantly trying to keep it because God gave it to me. And if once God ordains you, I don't care who is going to come around. They say no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The weapons will be formed.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much.
My man, we'll talk, brother. You got a deal.
All right, bless up.
Peace, bro.